Hey guys, my name is Dr. Ashley Dwyer, and welcome to the Talk Carby to Me podcast.
Welcome back to the Talk Harvey to Me podcast. Today I have a very special guest joining us, Dr. Ashley Dwyer. She is the founder of TeamBDN Coaching.
Hello, excited to be here and love the podcast name, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, the podcast name just kind of came to me. I used to I was a trainer at Lifetime, did a lot of nutrition coaching. Me and a friend of mine who's a dietitian, we started doing these workshops titled, Build the Perfect Diet. And eventually, through a bunch of brainstorming, this turned into Talk Carby to Me because, carbs, air quotes, make you fat.
Right.
And Jason Derulo probably had something to do with it, like I told you, with his song. So we ended up here, and now we're live.
I love it.
So how's your move going from Miami to Texas, or South Florida to Texas?
The move is done. We are here. It's been about 2 months. It's been insane. I will say, it's colder in Texas than I anticipated.
You're in Austin, right?
Yeah, I'm in Austin. Where are you?
I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Oh, okay. What's the weather like in Raleigh? Because I bet it's colder here right now.
It was cold when I woke up this morning. We were looking at frost on windows, about I don't know, it had to have been about between 30, 35 degrees.
Yeah, it's insane. It was 40 here this morning. I'm like, we're in Texas.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, but the move has been good. Thank you for asking. Just kind of getting adjusted to a new normal and a new community and a new town. It's pretty awesome, I'll say.
So did you was your whole company in Florida and then you moved to Texas, or are you guys like spread out?
I mean, my company is me. My coaches already live in different states. We work remote and internationally. So I guess the company goes where I go, but I'm still based in Florida. Like, for tax purposes, Florida's still a no tax state. So there's no need to change it.
Yeah, good call. Yeah, we'll keep that on the DL.
It's no secret.
Yeah. So you started out in pharmacy, right?
Mhm.
So how was that something where you wanted to be a pharmacist growing up and you went to school, and like how did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone, well, maybe if you have family members who are pharmacists, you want to grow up and be a pharmacist, but like I never was like a young kid and was like, I want to be a pharmacist. It kind of just came to be in high school. I was really good at math and science, so I'm like the math nerd, science nerd, and I wanted to work in healthcare. And then realizing how much school was necessary and residency and everything for like a real doctor, like a real MD, I was like, I'm not interested. Plus, I don't want to see people's like body fluids, I just don't want to work with all that. So at the time when I graduated high school, which, I'll say is 2007, so we'll put our age out there. Uh Pharmacists were really in demand. So signing bonuses were happening, all the things were happening, and I was like, that's a great career for a woman. I can still have a life. I can, make a difference, whatever. So I kind of decided at 18 that's what I was going to do and did it, and then did not love it once I started doing it. But yeah, that was the goal, is to start out in my pharmacy degree and continue that way. But retail pharmacy, man, it gets you.
Yeah, I have a couple friends who are pharmacists, and I have a couple clients that are pharmacists as well,
Hmm.
and they tell me all about it. Um,
Yeah.
I used to work in retail, so I'm familiar with that kind of environment. Not as a legal drug dealer, though. But
Doesn't matter, working with people.
oh yeah,
Yeah, it was tough. And so, I mean, listen, I had no desire to change once I started. I had no idea. Like, if I make this joke, like if you told me 5 years ago I'd be running my own company, I would laugh at you. But here we are.
yeah. I can relate to that so much. If you told me 5 years ago I'd be doing a podcast, I would have thought you were crazy. If you told me when I was in middle school that I would have a podcast, I would have I would have thought you were crazy. Like I would have rather died than have anyone hear me speak.
Really?
I used to have such bad like speaking anxiety that if we had like a project for school or something like that, and I was presenting, I would freeze and I'd be shaking, I'd be sweating, I'd have like bowel discomfort. I'd like pretend to be sick. Like I could not do it.
I mean, public speaking is a lot more terrifying than like a computer, I guess, right? Like now you're kind of used to it, maybe?
I'm getting there. This is episode 28.
Mhm.
Been going for about the last year, so
That's
it's getting
awesome.
better. But it's still a little bit like example for like our case. I've never met you before.
Nope.
You know what I mean? So
Hello.
it hello, nice to meet you. I'm Anthony. It's kind of like a rapid fire, how fast you could build rapport to a degree. Luckily, I've always been in sales, so I'm used to that. And obviously, I've been a trainer for the last 7 years, so I'm very used to meeting someone and initially, talking to them, getting to know them, seeing, what kind of triggers them and stuff like that. So it's been interesting.
Yeah, you have to have a little bit of extrovertedness for all that.
Yeah, which is funny because most people who know me would say I'm very introverted. So it's kind of like
Mm.
forced that I'm like, oh, I got to hype myself up.
Welcome to discomfort. It's awesome.
Discomfort really is great. I wish more people had a relationship with discomfort.
Same, but I get it. Like, I understand why. It's very uncomfortable, but that's how you grow, right?
Yeah.
We're already so cliche.
So cliche. Yeah, there's so many cliches. So going from pharmacy, and you are now the CEO and founder of your own nutrition company. How'd that, like, what was that? What was the deciding thing that made you switch?
So there were 2 things. One was when I like immediately started pharmacy school. I think my second year. So for those who don't know, pharmacy school is 4 years. It's like a 4-year doctorate program. So going into my second year, I like over the summer when I was home, like met a girlfriend who was doing NPC bodybuilding competitions and I was like, I want to do that. That looks cool. So I started working with a trainer and I had my first show in September of that year, whatever year that was. I can't even remember. But probably 2011-ish, 2012. And school started in August. So that second year, I kind of really learned about diet, working out, like got really, really, really scientific to it. And I just loved it. And I was like, ooh, I like this. It's not very healthy. I'm going to tell you right now, bodybuilding is not healthy. It's not. But the process and how you can kind of manipulate food and workouts and whatever to get a desired like outcome, that was really cool to me. And I really wanted to do that. And then I was like, I'm not going to drop out of pharmacy school. Let me finish my degree and then I'll use this knowledge to like help patients in the future. Well, fast forward, you graduate, you work in retail, you have no time to do any of that. You're stretched to the max. You don't really get to counsel patients. It's not really a fun atmosphere. And then around 27, because of probably 2 years after I graduated pharmacy school. So because of my bodybuilding background with like eating too little, overtraining, working a really stressful job, going out with my friends, not really sleeping, I kind of threw myself into a really big hormonal disaster. Like thyroid was in the gutter, hormones were in the gutter. Like what woman is perimenopause at 27? None. Like my hormones were not even really registering on tests. Everything was awful. Cortisol was super high. So I really had to do a deep dive into my lifestyle and figure out what was happening with that. And so I didn't really know much at the time. So my doctors put me on medication, took me off birth control, did all these things with Western medicine that weren't working. It wasn't working. Like my hair was still super shedding and falling out. I was really tired. Like narcoleptic at work. I'd have a coffee and still want to fall asleep right away. So it was insane. I felt like crap. And so it wasn't until I discovered like functional medicine practitioners and that route where it was really my lifestyle I needed to change. I needed to stop working out 7 days a week, stop like doing fasted cardio all the time, HIIT training, eating 1400 calories. I needed to eat more. Like it wasn't until I adjusted those things that my body started to heal and I started to get better. And I was like, okay, this is what I really want to do is preventative medicine and like teach women not to starve themselves because this is what happens. And so it kind of clicked and I really didn't like pharmacy at the time. So, that was really where like the drive to do this happened, but I had no idea how I was going to do it. Like how do you, I don't know. I was looking at pharmacy careers in ambulatory medicine, which is like outpatient pharmacy, more like diabetic kind of things. And then I don't know how old you are because we just met, but around 28, 27, all my girlfriends got married. Literally, like, I had 9 weddings in a year. It was insane. And I was always the fit friend. So I was helping them get ready for their weddings to lose weight. And they were like, you should do this for a living. And again, I was like, I have no time. I'm working a full time job. When am I going to do this? And then just 6 months later, I remember sitting down and being like, "I'm gonna do this." And I created the name, like you said, the Big Day Nutrition. When we first started, that was my original company name because I specifically worked with brides and women getting ready for events, and sat down and created the LLC and all the domain names and everything, and, like, that's how it got started. It's like a crazy thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm still, like, thinking back on it like, "Dang."
Yeah. For the record, I am 35.
Okay, so we're the same age.
Yeah, we're the same age. I'll be 36 in April.
Nice. Happy early birthday.
Woohoo! So you mentioned something in that you were perimenopause at 27. Like, what were some of those symptoms that you were experiencing?
I mean, differentiating from like those and the thyroid symptoms that I had, it was just complete exhaustion. I was gaining weight and I wasn't really eating anything. So, how was I gaining weight? I just utterly felt like crap. I had no energy. My hair was shedding. Like, uh, I only had a normal, I think, menstrual cycle because I was on birth control. So there was just a big mix. The sleepiness, the energy was just gone. It was gone. And then when I got my blood work back, I was like, oh, okay, this is exciting.
It's like when you look at your car and you've got all these check engine lights on.
That's what it was. It was 100% that. And as a pharmacist, you're like, I'm supposed to be super healthy. What is going on? Like, I'm supposed to know what to do. And, you know, I
Yeah.
didn't.
So how long did it take you to get out of that?
Total, probably 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. I think one thing that, especially in our industry, that people don't realize is like the length of time it takes to undo some of those lifestyle factors
100%.
and kind of start seeing progress towards your goal.
I will admit it would have been way sooner had I found the approach I was using for the last 1 or 2 years. Like, I was simply still doing the same things, just with the Western medicine interventions, and it wasn't doing me any favors.
I love the term Western medicine, by the way.
Yeah,
It makes us automatically, it makes me think like there's Eastern medicine too. And like
there is.
there's some incense burning and there's like a Chinese man in a shack in a bamboo forest that's got all the answers that we need.
For sure.
That's probably true actually. If we went on like an expedition.
Eastern medicine is 100% more like, what is it? Acupuncture and herbs and yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So you founded the Big Day Nutrition, right, which has become Team BDN Coaching. Um, so how did that come up? Like, how did that go as far as like growth and like what you were going after? Because you said you started with brides and weddings and stuff like that. So like, how did that evolve a little bit more?
Oh man. Well, business lesson 101. I knew nothing because drugs sold themselves, right? I didn't
Yeah.
have to be a salesperson for drugs or the pharmacy. So I mistakenly thought back in the day that like announcing that I was a coach, people were just going to like flood in. No, that's not what happened at all.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I finally hired business coaches who kind of showed me, I've had several business coaches because I use them all for different things. So the first one really showed me what kind of coach I wanted to be, how much to charge, like kind of get that in place. And so that was really, really important for me to figure out because I was definitely not charging it. I mean, I started coaching for free and then like $40 a month and then maybe like $100 a month, like just little things at the time, but I was brand new. That's kind of what you do. I needed to build experience. And so he kind of taught me how to do all that. And then my second was like a group. They taught me the processes and the sales and the lead generation and the just all of the background stuff that finally allowed me to make enough money and get enough clients to leave pharmacy for good. So I did both for 2 years until I could leave and be a full-time entrepreneur. But I will say it shifted because as I was getting to work with more clients, I realized like, the wedding stuff was fun. I used to go to expos and do the whole expo table and whoop, hang out with brides, but my real like passion started lying in the women who had the hormonal and metabolic issues and the not just like crash dieting people, which we didn't do anyway, but not just dieting people for their wedding, but like helping them actually live a healthier life, get off medications, do all that. That was where I was gravitating towards. So then we shifted our entire ideal client to women of like 25 to 45, right in childbearing age, smacked right in there with the hormonal issues, and became Team BDN Coaching instead. Because we were already known as BDN from Big Day Nutrition. So we just kind of rebranded.
I like it. Did you ever think while you were working with the brides, like, what if I added like a photography channel to that business?
I didn't.
Really? I would
Because
I would have become a full-time photographer immediately along with that.
what do you like for me to take pictures?
Yeah. Like,
I
oh,
have no idea
I'll
how
get
to
you
do
ready for
that. So there
yeah.
would absolutely not.
Yeah. One of my bad habits, since we're talking about like entrepreneurial, is I'll start a business and then my brain will function like that. It's like, ooh, I could also have this as well as another avenue. Um,
So I did that, but not in the way where I did it. I would just outsource and create partnerships with photographers who were like wedding
uh,
photographers, and then we'd offer each other services kind of thing.
I like it.
Yeah.
So I was listening to your 35 Things I've Learned
Oh, yeah.
at 35 podcast episode. And one of the things that you mentioned that I found super interesting, which kind of touches on what you just said, the competition factor that exists within our industry, and looking at as far as viewing everyone like, oh, we're a scarcity mindset, and there's only so much, so many people to capture, and then you have this group of friends that you can interact with where it's not competitive and you feed off each other. So talk to me a little bit about that and what that's done for you.
Oh man. It's really interesting because I've always been like a tomboy too at heart. So like my groups of girlfriends and stuff were never I mean I've always had girlfriends, but the group that I have now here in Austin is unlike anything I've ever had, and I thought friendships like this were fake. Like I thought they were superficial and people were just lying. Or like cuz I went to UF, it was super Greek, right? So sororities everywhere. I was not in one, shocker. But they would all comment on each other's pictures and like be the hype women, but then you'd hear them like talk. I don't, can we curse on this podcast?
You can say whatever you want on this
I was
podcast.
gonna say, but then you'd hear them talk shit behind their backs, and you'd be like, "You're not a real friend. Like this is fake." So I always thought that stuff was like made up. And then, I'm from South Florida, so I was operating there, and my girlfriends there are all married with like two or three kids. They're different friend groups. They're all spread out, so they're not like one giant friend group. So we didn't have this constant communication type of range that we had. Everyone was just disconnected. And I didn't really have any entrepreneur friends in South Florida. And I was trying to explain this to someone else. And I was like, if you've ever been to Fort Lauderdale or Miami, like it's so different. Like the entrepreneur is like real estate and that kind of entrepreneur. There's not really a lot of coaches. And then the fitness industry in South Florida is very much like BBL and Ozempic, not like
Mm.
let me like really be a healthy person. It's really interesting. So I came to Austin specifically for this group that I knew here and that I was friends with. And what got me sold is we were all at a coffee shop one day and we're all coaches. We're all fitness coaches and health coaches online. So we're direct competitors. And we all have different niches, but they overlap. And everyone was just like throwing out ideas to help with like this person's launch, or this person was looking for like a DM outreach. Like, oh, I have this girl who no longer works with me, but she's great. Let me refer her to you. Like it was so wholesome and cool. And I was like, I want to be here. Like I need this. This is so amazing. And so yeah, we moved and now we do it. We literally just had a text thread going about a big coffee shop work date tomorrow. So
That's awesome.
mhm.
That is one of the things that I underestimated when I made the switch from, being a cog in the wheel at companies to doing my own thing, is
Yeah.
you run out of people to talk to about certain things. And so like me, I don't like to talk too much about what I'm up to. I'm kind of stoic, a little reclusive. I'm almost like I use this example all the time. I'm kind of like Batman in the third Batman movie with Christian Bale, where Bruce Wayne in the beginning of the movie is just like hiding from the world.
Come on, Anthony, open up.
Oh, I'm working on it. But the reason that I don't like to talk too much about it is I don't like to hear myself talking about things that I'm doing well because I don't want to convince myself that the job is done and we've accomplished things.
Hmm.
I've talked about it a bunch where like, so I'm not very motivated. Like if I have a set a target for the month of December and I hit my target, it does nothing for my motivation. It doesn't change it one bit. I'm just like, oh, okay, this was the expectation because I wrote it down, and that's just how my brain processes it.
Hmm.
Um, but you kind of lose that ability to have people to talk to. And the downside of that is unfortunate, or excuse me, the downside of that is that sometimes it gets harder to process all the information that's going on in your head, right? So as an entrepreneur or business owner, you're thinking about things constantly. It switches. Whereas before, I used to work. I was at a gym 6 to 3, 3 o'clock, brain turned off. We were doing other things. Now it's like 24/7. So it becomes a little bit difficult to kind of like maybe I'm not seeing something that your lens would pick up,
No, that's my life
and
too.
vice, yeah, for sure, and vice versa. And so something like this has been very helpful for me. So where I'm at currently, I don't have that circle of friends
Yeah.
as far as that are entrepreneurs. Like I have a couple of people that I interact with. I have a bunch of real estate agents that I talk to all the time, so they kind of think that same way. But for me, when I talk to people, it's always like, "Ooh, like you want to talk about brunch and like what's going on with your kids?" And they started a swim meet, and I'm like, I can't relate to this.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, competition in our industry is very interesting. Um, I think it's cannibalized our fitness industry. And I'm not really sure. It's something I've been thinking about the last couple of weeks, whereas we're all technically competitors. And when you touched on like BBLs and Ozempic, that is the new competitor
It is.
to the entire fitness industry. I
I
was
don't even
talking,
consider I don't consider my competition another coach. I consider, like, the devices and the easy fixes.
yeah. So we live in a society today where 3/4 of the country is obese. If you look up how many coaches exist, you're probably looking at a few million, maybe over 100 million. Easy. Maybe not 100 million. Maybe it's more like 20 million. Sorry, my math is
Like,
off.
there's a lot. Are we talking worldwide or just in America?
Let's just go with American statistics right now. So let's call it 20 million. That's a made up number, but it's a lot. If you don't believe me, just scroll through Instagram.
Mhm.
And about $34 billion was spent on gyms last year, and projected this year. $75 billion was spent on weight loss drugs. So to collectively as a fitness industry, we've kind of just lost to the quick fix.
Yeah.
And I think it's definitely something like looking long term, and especially at a macro level, that's something that like should be on all of our radars. And when you break that down into the competition, which is more the micro thing of it, the less of us that are banded together as far as fighting that. And like, yes, it's a quick fix. Some people are just going to take shortcuts, but there are other ways to do that. Um, but we're so polarized in all our messaging and how we stand, and like I have this niche and this niche and that niche over here and all this stuff. And I think it's one of the things that definitely kind of has set us back in what's probably going to be the thing that ends the fitness industry as we know it.
I mean, I feel like I agree and I disagree. Like, I think people need to have niches, and that's why there's maybe not as much competition as you think. Like, I purely work with women. So men are not going to come to my coaching and be like, yeah. So all the men who need help have specific male coaches or other companies who work with coaches they can go for. But as far as like the super duper polarizing content, like what do we have online? Like Saladino, and we have all the other guys who are like avoid sugar because insulin, avoid like go carnivore because plants are poisoning you. Like those kind of fear mongering messages. Like yeah, that's doing us a disservice 1,000% and confusing people,
Yeah.
and that is trash. But there are still great coaching companies and people who believe in a balanced approach and who believe like we mostly do macros. There's other coaches who do intuitive eating only. I think it just depends on the method, but I feel like if you're someone who believes there's one way to strictly do something, I tell everyone to avoid those people because there's not. Everyone needs like the individualized approach, right?
Yeah.
So that is what is doing the disservice to the industry. However, everyone's going for the one thing, like the weight loss drugs and surgeries and all of that.
Yeah. So you were in pharmacy. What's your stand? What's your take on Ozempic and Wegovy and Mounjaro and all the whole industry that's blossoming right now?
I think that So I have some opinions people are probably going to like and some that they're not going to like. I think that they are great as far as like the people who need them. I think they're going to be like an amazing addition to really obese clients or ones that actually fall within the factors of the FDA approvals. I think that they can be beneficial for insulin sensitivity, cholesterol, heart health, etc. But where I draw the line and where I don't love it, because people think like it is an easy fix, but these drugs come with huge lists of side effects. And everyone always thinks that they're going to be the exception to the rule, and then they're disappointed when they're the rule. Meaning, like, there's so many instances of gastroparesis or like extreme delayed digestion going on, which can cause impacted bowel and hospital visits and all of these things. And like, that's not healthy. So they forget the side effects because they're just chasing this weight loss. And the majority of clients that are on these drugs are on it for vanity weight loss, not for health. And Ozempic and Wegovy, and we're just going to call it I call it semaglutide, and then I catch myself saying semaglutide, so I don't care how it's pronounced.
That
But
first one sounds. It's got way more inflection, a lot more.
semaglutide?
I feel like it's dramatic.
Yeah, that's how I heard it first, and so that's just how I've always said it. But um, people are getting it from med spas. Like I mentioned this the other day on something where it's just like dispensed like freaking chiclets or Pez or whatever. It's just being handed out like Oprah giving you get it, because they're willing to pay. And it's for vanity weight loss of like, I want to lose this 15 to 20 pounds that I can't seem to get off. And it has nothing to do with extreme like insulin resistance or maybe some hormonal issues. It all comes down to lifestyle and behavior. So no matter if you take these drugs or not, the goal is to stay on it forever because even studies show you'll regain the weight back once you stop. So you still have to work on behavior change, habit change, mindset change. You still have to dig deep and figure out why we can't change your lifestyle. And if you're not willing to do that, prepare to spend $300 a month for the rest of your life or gain all the weight back. And so people don't like to hear that. And so I used to tell people not to take it in the beginning. And then I just realized like people are going to do what people want to do, but will be the coaching service that like helps you through it or helps you get off of it or helps you make these changes so that you can get off of it. And that's kind of my stance on it now is it's not a miracle drug and you're going to have to still make the changes. You're just delaying it.
Yeah, it's well said.
Mm.
I like to kind of look at it from the lens of when you see people who are like trust fund babies that inherit like this very successful company, they didn't earn everything that was along the way,
Oh, I like it.
right? So you're just given the shortcut without the work that took you there or that got you there. It's kind of like the same thing when you look at like mentors and role models and you see people online and they're like, life is so great. Business has been flourishing. I'm wildly successful. They have almost like a recency bias where they only remember like what got them from 90% to 100, but they forget what got them from 1 to 5 to
Yeah.
50 to 60. So when you talk about the behavioral factors, if you have a horrible lifestyle as it pertains to nutrition, activity, fitness, and then you now have the result without the work, once the result is removed, you will be left with, you're just going to revert back to your old habits and you'll have that, that rubber band effect that you see with fad dieting and crash dieting and all those things. So I personally, I look at it like if you're about to die because you're, 700 pounds, Awesome. Great. Aside from that, if it's for vanity reasons, there's a probably going to be a bit of emptiness that comes from I got my weight down, but I didn't work for it.
I totally agree with what you're saying, but what I've found is people don't care as long as the weight comes off. They don't care how they get it as long as they don't have that weight anymore. And I totally understand. Like I don't want people to listen to this and be like, "Well, you have no idea. You've never been where I've been." Or like I've tried everything and I finally found something that works. And I'll argue that point too is like you didn't try everything because I'm sure you tried every fad diet that was meant to fail, right? Because they're not sustainable, but like, have you really tried working with like what we do, working with a coach, working with someone who's doing things holistically, lifestyle change, behavior change, and actually given it like a consistent effort? Like that, I would challenge anybody on. But you get the celebrities and you get everyone else doing it for vanity, and you know, I get it.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to pivot.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting topic. I'm fascinated to see how it plays out over the next 5 to 10 years. So obviously we're two coaches and we're looking at, how this affects our industry or the people that we work with. And
Well, they just came out with a new one. What is it called? Zepbound? I
yep,
think it's called Zepbound. Yeah.
yeah. And if you're listening and you're in the market for a weight loss drug, the Eli Lilly's drug also happens to be more effective. They found in a study. Um, Also, if you're looking for a great stock to invest in Eli Lilly.
Oh man.
But here nor there. So when you look at it at a macro level and just look at like industries, at some point the food industry is going to start getting affected by this because when you're on the weight loss drugs, you don't have,
You don't
you really
eat.
you really don't eat. So people are going to be buying less food, which for some people in this economy, you might be like, oh, that's a great thing. But at some point, those food giants they're gonna launch a counterattack. So I'm interested to see where that goes.
I think that already happened with like Kellogg's or one of those brands. I was reading something where they're noticing people aren't buying as much snack food and so their sales have gone down. I don't know what the reaction is going to be, but I think that's already happening.
Yeah. Yeah, so that'll be a fascinating development as it goes up long term. Um, and I think a lot of people, I think the thing that it sheds light on when you look at the vanity is your why needs to be super important and locked in. Um, as a coach, I've always prided myself on that being like the first thing that we uncover. Like, so if
Mhm.
you come to me and you're like, I want to lose 10 pounds, it's not great. Here's the plan. Let's go lose 10 pounds. It's why do you want to lose 10 pounds?
Right.
Like, what's that going to do for you? Like, what do you think that's going to change in your life? And
Mhm.
going down that road, and you can kind of have like that anchor to it. So when things get hard or the scale doesn't move or you go on vacation or there's some birthday party or some crazy shit happens, you kind of have that thing to pull back to, or it's like, this is my why.
100%. Totally agree.
Yeah. So you mentioned talking about like polarizing content and like approaching stuff. Something I found very interesting you posted the other day, I found it hilarious actually, was that guy that had the comment about fat shaming.
Oh.
And honestly, that might be one of the worst fitness takes I think I've ever heard.
Okay, I don't even know who that guy was. He was just mad at something in my comments about something else, and the whole comment for those listening was like, "Fat shaming is the best way to get people to lose weight. I should know. I lost 100 pounds because I was fat shamed," and it kinda goes with the realm of, like, just because it worked for you doesn't mean it's gonna work for everyone. He's not even a coach. I don't even know what he does for a living, but I was like, "This is the worst thing I've ever heard." Like, please.
That was I read that. That was pretty bad. Especially, and it's not even like he's like the best way to get people to lose weight. He said the best way to get women to lose weight is to fat shame them.
That's the probably the least successful way that I could think of to get women to lose weight.
Yeah, it's like literally mind blowing. So, as a female coach, how much of that do you deal with on a given day?
Fat shaming or
Just the negativity pouring in like that, I would say.
well, I get negativity not I get negativity for being a single like female who just speaks her mind. Like, I get negativity for that kind of stuff, not so much for, like, what I do for a living. Um, but they do like to share their opinions whenever they can. So, the negativity that I get is more related to, like, being too masculine, like, um, yeah, telling me how things should be, ripping apart. Like, one day I'm too bulky, the next day I'm anorexic. Like, you can't you can't really take too much stock in what random people say on the internet.
Yeah. One thing I find very odd, says me being a man, most of my clients are female.
Okay.
Most of my clients are stronger than most of the men that are walking around. So shout out to all you women out there that get after it.
Woo!
I always find it very odd. Like when you look at like the super kind of unhinged comments, they happen to be on a lot of women's profiles, which is very strange. Whereas it's like, oh, I can lift more than you. It's like, I would fucking hope so. Like, and like what? um, so I just find that like super, super interesting. Like, are you made insecure by the fact that she can do
Yes.
pull-ups,
Yes.
that she can squat more than you? Like, is that what it is?
Yes. 1,000%. And that's what it is. And that's why it kind of triggers that projective behavior. And that kind of like, I feel better by voicing this. I don't know. They try and put you down so that you don't feel you're better than they are.
Yeah, it's a wild thing that the internet has created.
The internet has created a platform for people to say things where they think they're not going to get any repercussions or consequences. And, if you follow me, I've been posting them recently. So
Yeah.
careful.
Oh yeah, I love them. I think they're great, and you guys should definitely stick up for yourselves. Um, so, what do you think are some of the things that dieters in general get wrong when they first start out on their fitness journey?
Okay, so one thing with weight loss being the most common goal, right? Can we just like agree on that? Like most people want weight loss.
Yeah.
Something that people get wrong is immediately resorting to exercise for their weight loss goals. Like it's like, okay, I'm going to exercise every day. I'm going to get a gym membership. This is how I'm going to lose weight. And in the grand scheme of things, your nutrition is going to make the biggest difference. So, starting with fixing your nutrition is going to get you the best results because you can lose 20 pounds and never exercise at all, as long as you just change your diet and eat in a calorie deficit. We have clients do it all the time. So, starting with nutrition first, and then some other things that people get wrong is starting way too much too soon. Like, I'm going to go to the gym every day and I'm going to cut out carbs and I'm going to do all these super restrictive, crazy things that don't line up with your schedule and that aren't sustainable for your lifestyle. So, of course, you're going to fall off. And of course, you're not going to like be consistent with it because it's way too much too soon. It's like 0 to 100. Maybe start out 0 to 20. Like, go for 3 walks a week if you're not walking at all, like add in more vegetables into your day or more protein into your meals instead of taking away all carbs. Or it doesn't need to be so extreme. You're going to get better results if you start slow, like slow and steady. I know we all want the results right away, but would you rather lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks and then gain it back because it wasn't sustainable? Or would you rather lose 10 pounds in 5 weeks but keep it? you know
Yeah,
I go that
exactly.
way. And I think one of the biggest things that's super, super, super underrated that people don't pay attention to is your sleep. People get shit sleep, and it is amazing for any type of results, any type.
I feel so seen right now. I feel seen,
Yeah.
attacked. I'm gonna go leave a negative comment on something.
How much sleep do you get? Wait.
Whew. Honestly, that depends on the time of year.
Well, it's winter-ish.
So my day starts at 5 a.m. So I'm up at 5 a.m.
Okay.
Usually those first 10 minutes are pretty painful. So I am not the fitness person or the podcaster that's like immediately upon waking, I sit in my ice bath and read
I'm not that person
meditations.
either.
Yeah. All right. So I wake up, I limp around. My foot's kind of banged up. It's been like that for a while. After a while, I kind of wake up and go through it. Most of the time, I'll go to bed around like 10 o'clock,
Okay, so you're getting 7 hours.
10 to 5. About 60% of the time I get that done. Sometimes I'm a night owl, so my brain just goes bonkers at night. So I'll stay up sometimes later than I should. So I'll pull a lot of like, 11:30 to 5, something like that, which is a horrible habit, which I'm trying to fix. So it really depends on that, but I don't get nearly as much as I should.
Do you have a wearable? Do you have like an aura?
I have a Whoop band.
Okay. I was gonna say Christmas present, track, get a wearable. I have a Whoop and an aura. I'm like strapped up. I got
Yeah.
it all. How are your recovery scores though and sleep according to Whoop?
My recovery scores are usually pretty good. Um, Sometimes they're absolutely abysmal though. But I also like to sometimes I'm like, oh, I want my strain to go much higher, and so I'll like push it a little bit, and then I'm like, oh, there's a football game on tonight. I'm gonna watch this football game, and I end up watching probably since all the primetime games lately are dog shit. I'll end up watching the worst football game of all time, and then at the end of it, it's like cognitive dissonance where I'm just like, damn. I really just watched two bad teams with backup quarterbacks just kind of duke it out, and I'm not even a fan of either team. And now I'm exhausted for like the next day.
Yeah. I mean, if you're so I'm definitely not a night owl. I'm not really a morning person either, let's be honest. I mean, I'm like a 6:30 to 7 a.m. type of girl. I'm definitely not a 5 a.m.er. I don't want to be. But I was gonna say, can you modify your schedule where you can stay up later but get up at 8 instead of 5?
I think about this all the time. No,
Okay.
it just wouldn't work.
It's
So
worth a shot.
yeah, I think my downfall is like if I learned how to nap,
Oh.
maybe. So
I don't
like
know how
we're
to do
all
that either, so I can't help you.
yeah. So like we're always talking about like oh like when you like your inner child like for whatever traumatic reason like maybe mine is like I'm sleepy during the day because my inner child didn't get to nap as a little kid. Shout out
That's
to
deep.
mom. Shout out to mom. Love you, mom. But as a child, I didn't take naps. I was always, according to her, I was always awake. So I would sleep through the night, and I would wake up early, and I would just be awake for the entire time, and then sleep
Your
at night.
poor mom.
Apparently, I was a good kid. I'm going to put it officially. The official statement out there right now is that I was a great child. We're going to leave it there. So hopefully, no information services.
That's funny. She's gonna listen to this and be like, I have something to add.
Yeah, we'll have mom on the podcast, and she's like, "Yeah, he's lying. He was horrible."
Well, work on sleep, but sleep is definitely one of the underrated things people could switch right away.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so many things go into that too, especially people who like whether you want to lose weight, whether you want to bulk up. That's where a lot of your recovery is going to happen. That's where a lot of your muscle growth is going to happen. And I think everyone's the thought exists like, oh, I go to the gym and I lift weights, and that's when the muscle's growing. And it's like, no, not really. That's when you're like destroying yourself, and
Yeah.
you're going ahead like you need that time to sleep to kind of let the car turn the car engine off.
Mhm. 100%.
Yeah. One thing that I run into a lot is people eating water, people drinking water.
Like
It
not drinking water, you
Yeah,
mean?
people not drinking water. Sorry, I said that backwards. The amount of people that I met that are just dehydrated
Everyone.
is astounding.
Everyone. Mhm. That used to be like my when I was on like a handful of podcasts last year, the year before, I'd be like, "Do you have one thing you wanna, like, tell people?" It always used to be like, "Drink water." Like, everyone in the world is dehydrated. Just please drink water. And they're like, "I drink so much water." And I'm like, "How much water?" And they're like, "2 water bottles." I'm like, that's not what like 16-ounce water bottles." I'm like, "That's nothing." More.
If you're listening to this, drink water right now.
Yeah, please, takes a sip. I have like this is plastic, so don't judge me on this right now, but, always have, like, an emotional support water bottle is what I call it.
That's a great thing to call it. Oh, and your water bottle's plastic. You've just invalidated everything. This is
I
toxic.
know, now I'm like, you know, I don't know what I'm talking about because it's plastic.
A negative comment incoming. I can't believe you'd do such a thing.
Damn, listen, plastic's in everything, isn't it?
Yeah. So when you meet someone new and they come to you, um, what are some of the common excuses that you hear a lot, and how do you talk people through those?
Like excuses to not join? Like excuses for what specifically?
To not start, why they are why they are where they are, and
Yeah. I mean, the most common is I don't have time. I'm too busy. Like that's the most common. Um, and I mean, listen, I've noticed, and I don't want this to sound horrible, but the longer you do this, the more detached you are from those beginning feelings that maybe you used to feel back in the day, like as a newbie, right? The more veteran you are, you forget the newbie struggles. And so sometimes I hear that stuff and I'm like, who's not busy? Come on, like there's no way. Like I don't believe that everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. I know they don't because yes, we have the same hours in a day, but we don't all have the same availability in a day. So, like a mom is going to have way less availability than I do, right? But the timing thing is just the most common excuse, and it's really not. It's just that either maybe we're bad at time management or we're using it as an excuse to not really get started and confront those things, or uh like we spend all that time on social media when we really like I've done schedule audits with clients who are like, I don't have time, and then we'll go through their schedule and I'm like, we just cleared out 3 hours of you doing nothing. Like we found
Yeah.
time. So I think that's the biggest thing. The second thing is I don't know what I should be doing, so I don't do any of it, right? Like I don't know. I think that's like a analysis by paralysis of all the information on the internet and so much conflicting info that they don't really know where to start or what to do. So I get that a lot, but then they hopefully join our team and get a plan, right? Um what else? I'm like blanking, but I know there's so many.
Yeah. The the ones I see a lot are what you just mentioned. You have my kids is another big one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's personally my least favorite one. Like if you meet me for the first time and we're in a consultation and you tell me your kids are the reason that you're out of shape, that's I go full bore into that one. Can you imagine being a child and you're growing up, you're just doing your thing. You have all your innocence, you have no concept of how the world works or anything like that. And then as you get older, your 20s or something like that, your mom is now sick and she's bedridden or she's too sedentary, she's got all these issues, and it's like your fault. And so like when you look at
Yeah.
it from that lens, like I think people have to be very careful when they're like, oh, it's because of my kids, they take up all my time. And certainly they do. And we applaud, all the parents out there, the mothers getting it done, but it's also like you got to be very careful with that language, because like as for me personally, like I'd be like, damn, it was my fault. I didn't even know. I didn't even have any control over that. I was just being a kid.
Emotional damage.
All this emotional baggage.
Did you see yesterday I posted like a study where partners like end up gaining weight when they're in relationships, right?
Yeah,
And I had actually, it's funny you say that about kids because I had a couple people reach out to me in my DMs and be like, but is it because of kids? And it was crazy. Like that is totally a common reason people use of like, well, I have kids, I can't. And it's like, mm, but I get that with everything. I get because of my job, I get because of my kids, because the holidays, like there's just so many insert XYZ reason here. And they all have the same underlying like objection of it's just not really a priority at the moment, or it's more of like I'm interested in the goal but I'm not committed to it, or literally they just don't know how but they're not willing to ask for help.
yeah. The I don't have time. So we touched on the kid excuse. The I don't have time excuse is funny because my follow up to that is always show me your screen time.
Mhm.
Right. Also, what's your favorite TV show? And it's like, "Oh my
Mhm.
god, I love this show and
What
this
are you
show,"
binging right
and,
now?
like, I've watched The Office for the 37th time, and I was like, "What do you think would happen if you went to the gym 37 times, or you went for a walk 37 times, or if you just tally up all that time and do something?"
But that's not as much fun.
The crazy thing is with the way technology is now, you could watch The Office on a walk.
You could, yeah, on the treadmill.
On the treadmill, you can go ride a bike. I saw some freak in the gym reading a book while walking on the treadmill. I don't know about
Oh,
that
that would
one.
make me sick.
Yeah, I that like watching him, like seeing him do this gave me like tremendous anxiety, like almost like vertigo kind of. And I was like, oh
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Oh man. So, going ahead and how might you start someone out? Like, what are some of those easy steps that people can take to kind of take back, whether it be their time or their approach? Like because there's always going to be things that are like, hey, you can do this one thing and nothing else, and it'll dramatically change your experience with nutrition and what you're seeing results wise.
I think there's a couple of just easy things. Like I think where it comes to nutrition, add in more protein to every meal. So we're not even talking about taking away things. We're talking about adding. So add in some more protein into your day. Like I would say like 30 grams of protein, but for those who don't track, obviously, just do like a palm and a half or 2 palms of protein size, like every meal kind of thing. That would be more like 4 to 6 ounces. And then add in more fruits and veggies into your day, like get fiber into your day. And that'll make a dramatic difference into how you feel and the calories you're burning. So, nutrition wise, that's super simple. Just literally add in more fruits, veggies, and protein. I don't even care if you're still eating your desserts or whatever at night. You'll come to realize that with more protein, your cravings will go down. And with more fiber, you'll feel fuller longer. So, you may not even want to binge on that kind of stuff. And then exercise, like you said, go for walks. Like literally just go outside or go walk. Walking makes the biggest difference and do something you can stick with. Like why do we do 2 a days when all we need to do is like 3 or 4 days a week, right? Or get some movement in. The sleep thing I talked about, like try and get 7 to 8 hours minimum. If you're a new mom, like I get it. There's no help for right now, but we do the best you can. But it's just simple little things that'll actually be a huge dial mover. And those are just like the easy tips. And drink half your body weight in ounces of water. Start there.
I love it.
Do you agree with those? I was like, are those too much? Like, is that too many tips?
Oh, those are the tips.
Yeah.
Fun fact: if you've never exercised in your life and you jump around your house, apartment, yard like a bunny rabbit, you'll actually lose weight. What do you know?
Yeah.
Is it ideal? Probably not. You'll probably have some jacked calves, but
Man.
you'll be ready for Easter, which we all love. So the other thing that I wanted to that caught my eye in your 35 or 30 is when you were talking about switching gynecologists because of the blood work.
Yes.
And it's my understanding that your company actually does things revolving around blood work. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, well, for for people who didn't listen to the podcast, I mentioned how I went into my gynecologist's office and wanted them to order hormones, like wanted them to do blood work for me. And because that's the other thing about Western medicine is you have to go to specific doctors to get specific blood work. Like my primary care wasn't going to order my hormones, which is annoying. And my primary care doesn't order my thyroid. I have to go to an endocrinologist for that. So it was annoying. So all those copays and all those visits, right? So I went into his office because I was having some like irregularities, like getting it, a shorter cycle than normal. And I wanted to see what was going on. And they were like, we don't do that. We're not doing that. You're still within the 19 to 35 day range. It's normal. And I was like, but it's not my normal. And they're like, we're not ordering you blood work. And I get it if you're on birth control, because that would make sense. Like, there's no point to test your hormones if you're on synthetic hormones, but I wasn't. So I wanted it. Like, I just order it for me. I'm paying for it. And they wouldn't. So I literally told them, document that in my chart. I'm not coming back. And I found a new one who would. And that was before I was ordering blood work for my clients and for myself. So now my team is kind of partnered and affiliated with Merrick Health. So they're an online diagnostic like lab ordering. And I can order labs for clients. And we use that because I think if we have blood work and the type of disease states and illnesses and stuff that we're working with, it's really beneficial to see what your insulin resistance status is, right? So we're looking at fasted glucose, we're looking at A1C, we're looking at fasted insulin. It's really important to see thyroid and not just like what your doctor orders where they only order TSH. Like that tells us nothing, y'all. Nothing. Like I need free T3. Like I need a bunch of other lab markers for thyroid. So now if you're a new client, we will tell you, we'll request your blood work to see where you are and kind of what you have from the past 6 months. And then we have panels we can order for you that are out of pocket, but sometimes that's cheaper than insurance. And it just gives us a more streamlined approach on what we need to do for your plan and what we're working with before we get started or while we're in your journey to see how things are progressing.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah, I find it super interesting that it's something that it just goes with as much as that impacts in your day to day, that it just goes so unnoticed, unchecked, unrealized. I mean, the percentage of people who visited a primary care within the last year who have gotten their blood work done is probably astounding. It's probably a gross number.
Okay, I just went on a date with a guy who's 38 who's never got his blood work checked. And I'm like, "What? Can I like I don't even care if this doesn't work out. Can I order them for you?"
Was that the ick?
I mean, it was kind of like a, "What have you been doing?" Not even like a physical. What are we doing?
Sh- where? How'd the day go?
Are we including this into the podcast?
Fuck it.
No, the date was fine. It's not gonna work out, but that wasn't because of the blood work.
I think it was. So we're just gonna go with that. That's the
We're just
official.
gonna go with that. You're like, yeah, you don't value your own health, so it's not gonna work for me. Sorry. It's literally what I do for my career.
Is that something that you run into a lot with
Which
dating,
part?
and like when you do date and you meet people, as far as like health being a priority, like how how does that play out for you?
I mean, I generally date people who are gym people or who are in the industry, so it's not really that big of an issue. I do get the occasional like, well, maybe you should like date outside of your type. And I'm like, I can't because it's literally a value of mine. Like if you don't work out or you don't pay attention to your health, like you're gonna think what I do is really weird. Like imagine not being into anything and seeing someone whip out a food scale and being like, what are you doing? Or why
Yeah,
are we working out on vacation? I don't know.
no, that makes sense. I was just curious, but yeah, I'm the same way. I I don't think it doesn't give me the ick. I don't really care
Big dick.
if you're fit. I don't really care if you're fit or not. You just can't be complacent with it. Like it's kind of like it's kind of like one of those things. Like if your friend was really broke and they're always complaining about not having money, well, it's like, hey, maybe you should get a better job. Maybe you should learn a new skill. So if you have
Yeah,
someone,
yeah, yeah.
and they're like, maybe they don't have the goddess body, or they're not fit or athletic. It's like, okay, are you doing things to get you there? And if you are, great. If not, it's like,
Yeah, that's also just like a what is it? Like a complaining mindset, like wanting to complain about it but not change it.
yeah.
Mm-mm. That's interesting hearing from a guy's perspective though, because I know like if you're fit guy, do you generally go after fit women as well? So I'm glad we're covering all topics.
Yeah, this is now a dating podcast.
Yes, let's go. We'll go through hinge profiles.
So
Kidding.
in our next segment, we will go through how to build the perfect profile. I would be remiss in not bringing up the fact that my show is called Talk Carby to Me, and in your show, you talked about carbs. The people's relationship with carbs and stuff like that. So carbs are great. Carbs are our friends. So like, what are your top 5 carbs?
That I eat?
And I'm not talking about like you can take a healthy spin at it, but I'm talking about carbs in general. Like all carbs are an option here.
Like, okay, so I'm gluten free. So if we're gonna go by like what
No,
I eat, it might be a little different, but and I don't have a sweet tooth, so people might like hate me on this, but like I'm just gonna do my favorite carbs because it's easier. But I do fruit like crazy. I eat a ton of fruit, especially like berries. Fruit, bread. Who doesn't love bread? And yeah, I know I'm gluten free, but they make gluten free bread, and I'll have sourdough on occasion because I love it. Rice, like I live on rice and potatoes. So the carbs that everyone thinks you should avoid because they're bad, I eat so much of.
that's a good list.
Yeah. And then wait, that's four, right?
That
Fruit.
is 4. Give me a
Like what
dirty,
else?
give me a dirty one.
A
One that's
dirty
like
carb?
a villain carb.
Oh, I mean, I just killed off like Reese's pumpkins, like the Halloween Reese's. So there is chocolate fat carbs. I don't know if that's a fat or a carb, but
We're gonna go with a carb.
Is tequila a carb?
Is it?
No, but
No. That's a good list. So it's funny that you should mention. So sometime or around this time last year, I got a package at my door, and I was like, I didn't order this, and I looked at the address, and it wasn't even in the same like vicinity. Like it wasn't anywhere near my complex. I was like, this is mysterious. Like, did someone just drop this by manually?
hmm.
Like, what's going on? Never got an answer to this question, so I left it there for like a week, and then I finally opened the bag, and it was just full of Reese's eggs. And I was like, this is the best thing of all time. Reese's is the best candy.
I agree, and that's why I had to have them in my house for Halloween.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The shapes though, only the shapes.
Where can people find you, and what's next for you and Team BDN Coaching?
What's next? Ooh, okay. So people can find me specifically at on Instagram at dr.dwyer. So dr.dwyer. I'm also on TikTok at the same handle. We all love the content creator. That's what we are as coaches, as content creators now. So you guys can find me there or our website if you want to check out anything at teambdncoaching.com. And then what's next? Well, obviously we're just going to keep growing the team. I hope to add another coach or two in 2024. So that'll be fun. And then coming up next for myself and for coaches who listen, I don't know who your main audience is, but I am going to be coming out with a certification for coaches early 2024. So
Ooh, that's
slowly
exciting.
working on that. Yeah. So I'm starting to put like little feelers out there and talk about it because we're very much heavily working on it.
I like that. Yeah, audience about 50% coaches. So
Cool. Well, get ready.
that's awesome. Well, Doc, thanks for joining me. It's been a pleasure meeting you and talking with you. And
Yeah.
if you've listened to this episode and you love it, please be sure to let us know. Definitely follow Ashley and her team, and you will learn a ton.
While hopefully laughing.
Yes, while also laughing. She is pretty funny.
Thank you so much. It was so fun.
Thank you. Have a good one.